Namaste to everybody that has logged on to this online presentation. Thank you very much for joining us. On behalf of the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center at the Consulate General of India, Durban, South Africa, I would like to welcome you to the 14th episode of India, a Feeling. This is an online travelogue series, and on this program this evening, we have with us two distinguished guests who will guide us through their journeys in India. Our first guest is Mrs. Jyoti Singh, who was appointed as the first female deputy principal in 2016 at the iconic 92-year-old Shastri College. Jyoti ji is passionate about education and engaging with young people and has begun her career as a life science teacher. She is a mother of two and enjoys a wholesome life on the East Coast as a loyal Durbanite. Welcome to the program, Jyoti ji. We look forward to listening to your travel experiences in India.
Namaste. Thank you so much, everyone. And I would like to say namaste, namaskar, vanakkam, as well as sanvaran to our South African viewers on this platform. I feel so honored to be part of this meeting. Thank you so much. And, ever since I got the invite to be part of this, I've been just having reminiscences of my trip to India, and the emotions and memories have just been flooding through. So, from experience, we know that various people have many reasons as to why they choose a particular country to visit. Sometimes it may be because it's a bucket list destination. It could be for work, or it could be even winning a prize holiday. But in my case, it's quite a layered reason, and I'm really honored to be able to share that with you. And actually, my India experience, or my dreaming about India, actually started way back when I was a little girl. Because just like the rest of the global diaspora of Indian people, we are all grow up with the culture of being Indian, no matter which country we are living in. So the sweetmeats, saris, as well as satsang is familiar to me as much as braai boerewors, or even bunny chow. And not forgetting the occasional mudumbis and putu that we may also enjoy. So we South African Indians are socialized very easily into both cultures. But unlike my friends who may be third or fourth generation family members, in my particular family, my parents went out of the way, particularly my mom, went out of her way to instill a love and awe of India. And the reason is that she was actually born in India, and she and her family emigrated to South Africa when she was 6 years old. So we actually grew up with Indian curry, as well as a lot of exotic, over-magnified memories of India. And then eventually we decided, let's just take that trip and see how much of it is really true. Does India live up to all the hype? And in 2014, my sisters and myself and my mom made a trip, and we felt very good taking mom back to her hometown. And we booked a tour, the popular Golden Triangle tour. Of course, we made a detour to Surat so that she could visit her hometown. And so we set out to see what is India all about. And I actually was bubbling with excitement, quite excited to see it. And it really all came to a point when we landed at Delhi. And I was completely overwhelmed and enthralled by those sculptures that greets the visitors that land there. To see those sculptures of the deities, as well as, I think, if memory serves me correct, I think there's scenes of the Bhagavad Gita, and the intricacies and the detail was just very, very enthralling. And we just couldn't wait to find out what what the real India beyond the gates of the airport was going to hold. And the short stay it was actually, it didn't disappoint. And there's so much to talk about, but let me start with what's important. For me, it was the food. Being a vegetarian. So I'm actually going to give you a little bit of a personal account, the way India touched me and what stands out for me. A lot of the time, whatever you read about India, or you see on TV or movies, etc., is true. But everyone goes in and experiences any place for themselves. So regarding the food, being a vegetarian, wherever I go, it's such a hassle to find things to eat and be comfortable with it. But in India, I ate myself silly. We were able to eat everything, and coupled with the fact that it is so hot and we had to walk and travel so much in the heat. Fortunately, I didn't put on too much of weight. And still till today, I'm still looking for that thali, that dosa, that palak paneer, and even, I don't think I'll ever find it, that cup of chai, or should I say that small glass of chai, which is so masala chai, which is so different to what we have out here. And regarding the cuisine, I was pleasantly surprised because at one of the hotels we were also served a lychee muffin. And I promise you, I haven't eaten anything like that ever since. It was really out of this world. So definitely delectable and satisfying with regards to that. Of course, India is much more than food. So the next thing that really grabbed my attention was, of course, the sights and the architecture. It was breathtaking, astonishing. And having the first city, the first stop in Delhi itself, obviously the first place that we visited would have been the Red Fort. And I did say I went with my sisters, and I think we were in India maybe half an hour, and the sibling rivalry started already, because we were all vying for that picture to get those perspectives. The architecture is just so amazing, the columns and the angles and the lights, and it was just so fantastic, beautiful. So there were so many sites that we visited and saw, and I won't discuss everything, but I'll mention a few that really touched me. The next one that I must talk about is our visit to Agra. Has to be. I don't think you can ever, any of your guests are not going to talk about the Taj Mahal. And the day that we went to the Taj Mahal, it was an overcast day, and it was rainy and cloudy and overcast. In fact, there was even a cloud burst. So we had to stand aside and wait for the rain to stop. But, people may think that rain spoils a day, it spoils an excursion. But I promise you, it just crystallized the moment. It was so special to stand and to gaze upon this monument that has been standing for years and hundreds of years as a monument of love. So it was an amazing experience, and to have my sisters and my mom there, it was just amazing, beautiful experience. So I enjoyed that a lot. And the next city that I want to talk about that we visited was Rajasthan. So we went to Jaipur, and I was given the honor, or I think nervously I was passed on the honor to travel via the elephant ride to the top with my mom. So half the time I was like making sure she doesn't fall off the elephant, but it was actually a beautiful experience. And the animals were so amazing, from the elephants to the peacocks, and everything else was so exotic. It was really, really astonishing. And the day that we went to Jaipur, to Rajasthan, sorry, it was a public holiday. And I don't think we could have chosen a better day to go there, because, in India, whenever it's a holiday, it's a festivity. So I think government had organized some extra festivities out there. There were lots of people. There was lots of offers, and there was such a buzz going on, and there were even musicians playing, authentic music. So it was really, really something else. And the other aspect that I enjoyed while in Rajasthan,
नहीं किया उन्होंने, जैसे हमारे यहाँ कर.
may I continue? So the other exciting thing that we enjoyed while in Rajasthan was the Hawa Mahal. And, I found it so interesting, and as well as the Sheesh Mahal, all those wonderful palaces, to see the way the previous royalty lived and passed their days. It was really amazing. In fact, I found myself and my sisters, pretending to be Joda and just looking for the next Akbar there, but obviously they're no longer around. And besides Rajasthan, and all the sites that we saw, the natural beauty of the country was also very, very, very exciting. While in Rajasthan, even I believe that the lake with that little island, man-made lake, Ramgarh, I think it's called, it was really, really breathtaking, very beautiful. And these points of interest actually also remind me of our country, because there are lots of these beautiful sites, although I must say some of the architecture, India leaves the rest of the world agape. Being a Hindu, the next key feature on our itinerary was obviously the visits to the temples. And having landed in Jaipur, we actually visited the Swami Narayan temple. And it was actually a very, very awe-inspiring visit, because the statues were magnificent. They were meters high. It was really awesome in the true sense of the word. And then the other aspect of the Swami Narayan had a setup where visitors could walk through and travel through time as such. They had a setup known as a diorama, I think it is, where they had the history of Indians and India and the culture through the ages. It was really a very educational and fun experience. I really enjoyed that. And then we also made a trip down to Rishikesh and Haridwar, visited the temples out there. And the visit to Rishikesh, apart from the temples themselves, I actually for a moment thought that we were in the James Bond movie. You wouldn't believe it. Our driver was crazy. He was fun and crazy. He drove around those narrow alleys and streets in like less than 5 minutes. But he gave us a trip to remember, and it was fantastic. And also while we were there, I actually managed, it was all worth it, because we managed to buy little souvenirs, and I purchased the yantra, as well as I purchased a crystallized carving of Mataji. And it reminded me, and it really is special, because it reminded me, like in South Africa, I think Mr. Mchunu, you'll also forgive me for my pronunciation, but in South Africa, we've got a saying, Watinta Bafaza, Watinta Bakoda. So strike a woman and you strike a rock. And, I found parallels, thank you. I found parallels with that in India, because women, the female, is glorified, in fact, deified in India as well. So that was really, really exciting for me. And, the entire trip, wherever we went, just noticing the countryside, noticing the people, noticing how closely the people live with the environment. That was impressive for me, as well as the fact that it didn't really matter whether you were financially well off or not. People just went about their lives in a peaceful, humble kind of way, and that I found really, really inspiring. And it was also very amazing to see how people manage to balance themselves. I mean, you've seen them traveling maybe a family of 6 on one bicycle. I really don't know how it's done. So apart from that as well, what was also very, very inspiring was, we made the trip down to Haridwar and to all these temples. But really, if you while you travel in India, along every street, in every corner, there's a temple. And most importantly, these temples are visited by people. And it was, it's a living temple. And I found that really, really inspiring. The other factor is that the people, whether they were rich or poor, especially the ladies, they carried themselves with such grace and dignity. And the saris that they wore, even if they were walking on the streets, was really something else. So I found that quite inspiring. It seems the Western world has caught up with us. We only get to wear the saris or the kurtas if it's a special occasion. And then the next part of my trip was our trip to the family. We took our mum down to Surat. We visited her village, which is no longer a village. We went to Balsar, and we met with our aunts and uncles, our masis and foys and so on. And the hospitality, the joy that they had. Mum hadn't seen her family for more than 70 years, but they remembered everything about her. In fact, the shocking thing was to actually see a picture of my mum's family on the wall. So, and wherever we went, whether it was the general public or the family members, everyone in India, from the hotel staff to the drivers, to everybody, treats you like a guest. So it comes back, I think in the words of the Indians itself, it says Atiti Devo Bhava. So really epitomizing what it is to treat a guest as God. And I thoroughly enjoyed my trip to India. And I think, talking about guests, later on, Mr. Manickam, who's also a guest on this platform, is going to tell you about how we both deputies at Sastry College, how he has a special link that I don't think too many people know, that links him directly to India via Sastry College. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you for your most amazing tales on your journey in India, Jyoti ji. It was such a pleasure listening to how much you enjoyed your visit with your mom and your family, the cuisines, the temples, all the various iconic sites that you've been to. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. We will now show you a video from Incredible India. We hope you've enjoyed this video with us as much as we have. I would like to now move on to our second guest on the program, who happens to be Mr. Sugen Manickam. Mr. Sugen Manickam is the Deputy Principal of the Administration at Sastry College in Durban. Presently, he is in his 32nd year in the education profession. Married to Farida Yaqub, also an educator. They both have two wonderful children who are in high school. And Sugenji had visited the motherland in 2004 and traveled extensively throughout the north and south of India over a period of 6 weeks. We are hoping to hear some wondrous tales from you of your experiences in India, Mr. Sugenji. Please woo us with your tales as well.
Okay, I think you can hear me now. Namaste
Namaskaram, Vanakkam, Assalamu Alaikum, and to Mr. Sipiwe, Sanvanani to you. I must say I'm very, very surprised to see you on the program, and it's not what I expected, but welcome, sir. It is so nice to have you on this as part of the Zoom meeting team. And to those that will be watching this program and broadcast, namaste to you. I want to thank you for inviting me to be part of this program, and I'm truly honored and grateful to share my experiences of India. Marisha, as you had mentioned, our trip took place in 2004, and that was my first trip and only trip to India. It came at the request of my father, Sri Panjabaranam Manickam, who had lived in India for a period of about a year. He had gone to India to further his studies as a religious leader or a guru. And it was always my dad's wish to make contact with other family members that were left behind after my great granny and grandfather came as indentured laborers to South Africa, and this was in the late 1800s. It took decades of research on the part of my dad to finally locate family members that were still living, and he tracked them down to a tiny little town called Veerapachapuram, which is near Vellore in the state of Tamil Nadu. And my father did write 2 books. The first book was on his experience of tracing the history of the Manickam family. And he's currently writing his second book on the experiences of the indentured laborers and the descendants, especially amongst our family members, living in South Africa since the late 1800s. So we're really looking forward to his second novel based on his experience in India as well as his South African experience. My interest in traveling to the motherland, it commenced at a very, very early age, around 5 years, because my dad being a priest at the temple, the Sri Sati Vinayaka temple, we grew up in a family that was steeped in religion and culture. And so at the age of 5, I commenced with Tamil school and participating in Eisteddfods and attending all the prayer rituals right up to the time I remember at university. And then when I started teaching in Nelspruit, obviously that came to an abrupt end. But as a result of my experiences at the temple, it basically forged a bond between myself and India, and this yearning to see the motherland and to experience the true Indian culture commenced at that very, very early age. My experiences of India, as Jyoti mentioned, I think for anyone visiting India, nothing ever quite prepares you for the sights, the sound, and the true authentic experience of being in a country of your ancestral birth. And so the 6 weeks that I spent in India, it flew by so very, very fast. We really did wish that we could have stayed longer. But some of the highlights of my trip, as Jyoti mentioned earlier, the Taj Mahal, nothing quite prepares you for this most beautiful, breathtaking wonder of the world. And when I saw the Taj Mahal for the first time, I remembered the words of Rabindranath Tagore describing the Taj Mahal as the teardrop on the face of time. And I think those words really do justice to this beautiful monument. And we spent quite a considerable amount of time at the monument. And I had offered my first prayer in India at the Taj Mahal. Another memorable visit was the Agra Fort. And as Jyoti mentioned, the long journey on the Indian elephant going up the hillside. And yes, Jyoti, just like you, I had to hold on to both of my parents to make sure that they didn't fall off the elephant, but it was truly memorable because the view from the top and the actual architecture of the Agra fort is really, really inspiring. Another memory that comes to mind is the Lotus Temple in Delhi. And what is so breathtaking about the architecture of this temple is that its unique shape of that of the lotus flower. And I was quite taken aback by the fact that there are no deities in the temple. It's just a wide open space where anyone that is visiting the temple can offer their prayer in the form of quiet meditation and reflection. And as a result of this, you'll find that it attracts quite a cosmopolitan type of tourist, who can enjoy the spirituality of India in a temple that is open to every culture, every race group, that can quietly reflect and enjoy the experience of sitting in a very, very spiritual place. When we moved to the south of India, one of the sites that comes to mind is the Tiruvalluvar statue, which is a 41-meter statue that is located just off the coast of the southernmost tip of India. And this sculpture was dedicated to the Tamil poet and philosopher Tiruvalluvar, and who is for those of you who don't know, is the author of the Tirukkural. The Tirukkural is an ancient work based on the Dharma and morality. And so my dad thought that it was very, very important that we visit this monument that is dedicated to him. And for those of you that have traveled to this monument, you will know that you have to take a short boat ride to get to this island. And unfortunately, on that day when we were traveling, the sea was quite stormy, and it was quite an experience getting to the actual island and the monument. But it was definitely one of the most unforgettable experiences in the south of India. Also, in the south of India, the sunrise, you can't forget the sunrise at Kanyakumari. It's the most spectacular sunrise, and I believe sunset as well, although we didn't get a chance to experience the sunset. But, it is something that is so unique. Yes, we do experience sunrise and sunsets in every single country of the world, but I think the beauty of the sunrise in Kanyakumari is definitely worth a visit. It is truly breathtaking. Jyoti reflected on the food, and I must say that I agree with her 100%. The food is absolutely sumptuous. It was completely vegetarian, although meat dishes are served in the hotels mainly in the north of India, but we stuck to a vegetarian diet throughout. The breakfast was the savory pancake. I'm not too sure what it's called, but it's served with potato and a sambar, and that was truly delicious. Although we did have it for 6 weeks and we grew a little tired of it, and most of the hotels serve this as a staple breakfast, but it was very, very unique. And every possible vegetable you could think of was served in the 6 weeks that we stayed in India. And to taste the variety of vegetables, the parathas, the wonderful desserts, I truly, it's an experience that you cannot even describe. You have to be there. You have to taste the food to enjoy the Indianness of the cuisine and the uniqueness of the cuisine. What also struck me about India is the traffic. For those of us that are coming from much smaller countries, countries with much smaller populations, we don't get to experience the magnitude of traffic that you do find in India. And, at first sight, it is quite overwhelming. It takes quite a number of days to get used to the honking noises of the trucks and the hooting of the cars, etc. But, and also, the tuk-tuk, that's the auto rickshaw that's in India. But what amazes me about India is the high level of tolerance amongst the Indian drivers. In my 6 weeks of stay in India, I've never experienced a situation, and we were on the road every single day. I've never experienced any form of road rage in India. And, Indians are by nature very, very accommodating. And they allow vehicles to pass. And when they are passing one another, they wave and there's a friendly smile. And they allow people to maneuver in and out of traffic. Whereas you wouldn't find this in South Africa. I'm talking about the South African experience. You wouldn't possibly find that here. There's a lot of road rage. There's lots of people that are rushing, that wouldn't give others a chance or a break to get in or to weave into the traffic. And so I feel that this experience is something that I have learned from, and I wish every South African would learn from, is to be accommodating, and that our life is, I know it is a rat race, and that we are spending every minute that we have in the car rushing from one place to another, and we have a million things on our mind in terms of picking this one up or meeting a deadline, getting to a place on time. But what has taught me from my visit to India is that we need to slow down. We need to take in the sights that are around us, what is happening around us, while still being in the car. And we can be as accommodating as the people in India. Another highlight was visiting my family in India. When the indentured laborers came to South Africa, it was my great grandmother and her son, I think he was at the age of around 5, that came alone. They had undertaken a 3-day journey walking by foot to get to the harbor and to board the ship, which was the Dunvale Castle. They boarded that and they arrived at the Durban harbor. And my great grandmother remarried in South Africa, and she went on to have a set of twins. These twins became very, very famous artists in Durban. And one specialized in oils, and the other specialized in watercolor. And my grandfather, that's specialized in oil painting, was commissioned by the founder of our school, Srinivasa Sastry, to paint a portrait of him. And that portrait hung at our school in the school hall for quite a number of decades, until the school became an annexure of the ML Sultan Technikon. And at that time, because it was no longer learners inhabiting the school, but students, the painting, it was decided that it was best that the painting be moved to a safer location, and they moved it to the documentation center at the Durban University, rather the University UKZN campus. And so it's still there, and we did try to get it back to our school, but it's part of their permanent collection, and so they had asked that it remains there for safety reasons. So, it was quite nostalgic visiting India and visiting the family that we had left behind. My father spent many, many decades trying to trace them in India, and we did manage to locate family members in Veerapachapuram. And we stayed there for 2 days. It was a truly humbling and beautiful experience, These are people that are not considered wealthy. They have a farm. They live a very, very rural, simple, rustic life. But it was so beautiful to reconnect with, actual living relatives that we would have been part of our family had we remained in India. Another experience that comes to mind is what we came to know as the Kettuvalam, or the houseboats of Kerala. And it was also a very, very unique experience because we got to spend the entire day traveling on the backwaters of Kerala and spend the night in a tiny little lagoon. And it was the first time that we had eaten anything beyond vegetarian in India, and the driver of the boat cooked us a meal which comprised of fish, and it was absolutely delicious. And it was such a unique experience to spend the night on a houseboat in a lagoon, only hearing the nature around you, and it was so quiet, so peaceful. It was also a very, very unique experience. And as Jyoti mentioned earlier, the architecture of the buildings, the sculptures, it is something that is beyond what we can truly express in words. And it is so unique to India because every single temple, every single monument has these beautiful, beautiful carvings that must have taken ages, by skilled craftsmen to create. And it's only then that we actually get to appreciate the time and the skill of Indian architects throughout the ages. And, one also appreciates the fact that just like any other developing country in the world, India is a country of contrasts. You have the rich, you have the poor, you have those areas that, that are off the beaten track, that tourists don't actually visit because of the extreme poverty. And then you have certain cities like Bangalore, which are of first world standards in terms of the way of life, the architecture of the buildings, etc. And so when we visit India, and this is my advice to anyone who has plans to visit, is that you have to visit with an open mind and with an open heart, because you can only appreciate the beauty of India if you have an open mind and if your heart is pure and open to everything that India can offer. And you only have to look at the hearts of the Indian citizens to truly appreciate what a beautiful country India is. As was mentioned earlier in the program, from the drivers of the taxi to the people that work in the hotel, the people that are on the streets, in the shops, serving chai, tea, etc. They are so friendly, they are so accommodating, they truly reflect what India is all about. And that is a country that is so welcoming, that is really, really welcoming and friendly. And I want to end off, Malaysia, with one of the most heartwarming experiences that I had. It wasn't my or our intention to visit Prashanti because it wasn't scheduled on our itinerary. And it was just by chance that the itinerary had changed when we had gotten to India, and they indicated to us that if we would like to visit the town of Prashanti, that is Baba's ashram. And so we agreed, and after I think, an entire day of traveling on a very, very hot and dusty road. And there in the distance, we see this most beautiful, quiet town, that it was almost silent. And as you drove closer, you could smell the incense, and you could experience the calmness and the peace that pervaded the entire area. And when we arrived at the hotel, we were told that, the service at the temple was about to commence, and that if we needed to make our way there as fast as possible. And so we rushed and we got ready and we visited the ashram, and there was perfect silence. And so we sat on the floor and we waited, and all of a sudden there was this rolling noise of the tabla players, and we had this very, very young group of children that broke out into the most beautiful bhajan that I've ever heard. And growing up in a temple where we sing bhajans almost every week, but it was this children that sang so purely, so from the heart. And when I turned around and looked at the other visitors around me, there was this gentleman from one of the northern European countries that was sitting next to me, and his the tears were just running down his cheeks because it was so overwhelming to hear these children. And then Baba entered, and the prayer rituals began. But it was an absolutely beautiful experience, of a town that is self-sufficient, that has been created to alleviate poverty, and to bring services to a community, so that everyone will be able to benefit, from whatever is being offered, be it medical facilities, educational facilities, etc. And that is truly appreciated in terms of the work that has been put or done by Satya Sai Baba and of course the other devotees at the temple. So it was a humbling experience. It was such a unique experience, and I'm so grateful that our itinerary did change in order for us to have experienced this in one of our weeks in India. And Melisha, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity of sharing my experience of India. I would love to visit India on further occasions with my family, so that whatever experiences I had, I will be able to share with them, and they will be able to see firsthand for themselves what a unique country it is. And I would urge anyone in South Africa or anywhere in the world to visit India at least once in their lifetime. It is an unforgettable experience. Thank you, and namaste.
Namaste, Sugenji. Thank you to you and Jyoti ji for sharing your most wonderful experiences with us on this program. From my side, I'd like to thank Dr. Yogi and his team for putting together this insightful program on India. And I now hand you over to Simpiwe Mkunu for the vote of thanks on behalf of the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center at the Consulate General of India in Durban. I hope you have a wonderful evening further. Namaskar, and thank you all for joining us.
Simpiwe, please unmute.
Namaskar and greetings to all of you. On behalf of Swami Vivekananda. Yeah, I did unmute. Can you hear me now? Hello, Ji. Piyush Ji.
Yes.
We can
Okay.
hear you, Simpiwe ji.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Namaskar and greetings to all of you. On behalf of Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center at the Consulate General of India in Devon, I am honored today to deliver a vote of thanks on today's episode 14 of the program, India A Feeling. This is a travelogue series. Today, allow me to thank our online guest, Ms.Jyoti Singh, a Deputy Principal Academics at Sastry College, and Mr. Sugen Manickam, who is a Deputy Principal at Sastry College at the Department of Administration. You see, when I was listening to Jyoti Ji and Sugen Ji, both their stories, I had a feeling that it was coming within them. You know, I saw the face of Jyoti Ji and the face of Sugen Ji when they were narrating this story. You know, it is still vividly in their minds. So to both of them, Jyoti Ji and Sugen Ji, Dhanyavad for taking part on today's program. To Director of Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center, Dr. Chaitanya Prakash Yogi, Melissa Rajkumarji, Sri Piyush Kandelwal, thank you once again for taking part on today's program. To all our online participants, I'd like to say thank you very much for taking part on today's
Dr. Chaitanya
program.
Prakash
You are
Yogi
kindly advised to visit ICCR Facebook page for all cultural updates. To all of you, once again, Jyoti Ji and Sugen Ji, have a wonderful evening. Namaskar.